At the beginning of the 1900s, many of the world's wealthiest people had no modern technology, no internet, and none of the countless opportunities we have today. Yet they built fortunes that transformed generations. The question is, what did they have that others didn't? To uncover that secret, keep listening to today's audiobook. How did some people build billion-dollar empires starting from nothing? How do they think, make decisions, and create opportunities in ways that ordinary people cannot? Without further delay, let's begin. Think Like a Billionaire. Written by Scot Anderson, only on Audiobook. Chapter 1. Wealth Begins in Your Mind. It was a cold winter morning in 1905. On the streets of New York City, a young boy stood selling newspapers. His clothes were simple, there wasn't much money in his pocket, and the people around him had little hope for his future. Like every other day, he stood outside the train station selling papers. Suddenly, he noticed a wealthy businessman stepping out of a luxurious automobile and walking toward the station. The boy watched him for a moment, then quietly asked himself, "Why do some people live like this while others struggle their entire lives?" Most people would have asked that question and forgotten it, but this boy didn't. He began observing wealthy people, their habits, the way they spoke, the way they made decisions. Everything about them fascinated him. Gradually, he realized something important. Wealthy people see the world differently. They don't just see the present, they see the future. They don't focus only on problems, they search for opportunities. Most importantly, they never accept their current situation as their permanent reality. That realization changed his life. Decades later, the poor newspaper boy became a successful businessman. His transformation didn't begin with a business. It didn't begin with an investment. It began with a thought. Because the greatest changes in life always start inside the mind. Most people believe that wealth comes from money. But the truth is, money is the result of wealth, not its source. The true source of wealth is the way you think. Every great business, every major invention, and every remarkable success in history first existed as an idea in someone's mind. Someone imagined a new possibility and then turned it into reality. Everything that exists in the physical world was first created in the world of thought. Take a moment to look at your own life. Where you are today is the result of thousands of small decisions you've made over the past several years. Which skills you chose to learn, who you spent your time with, how you spent your money, how you used your time. Each of these decisions gradually shaped your present reality. And every one of those decisions began with a thought. That is why two people can receive the exact same opportunity but achieve completely different results. Because before opportunity comes perspective. One person sees possibility within an opportunity. The other sees only risk. One sees a chance to learn. The other fears failure. As a result, one moves forward, while the other remains exactly where they are. Imagine two friends working in the same office. They earn the same salary. At the end of every month, one spends every extra dollar. The other invests part of that money in learning new skills. 5 years later, the difference between them is enormous. From the outside, it may seem like one was simply luckier, but in reality, the difference began in the way they thought. One viewed money as something to spend. The other viewed it as a tool to build the future. Most people become so accustomed to their limitations that they can no longer imagine new possibilities. If no one in their family has ever started a business, they assume business isn't for them. If no one around them has achieved extraordinary success, they believe that level of success is beyond their reach. Yet history repeatedly proves that the greatest changes have always been made by people who dared to dream beyond the limits of their environment. The son of a farmer became a president. A newspaper boy became an industrialist. An ordinary employee built one of the world's largest companies. None of them had a perfect beginning, but they all shared one thing in common. They never accepted their current circumstances as the limit of their future. The human mind is an extraordinary machine. If you constantly tell it, "I can't," it will begin searching for evidence that proves you're right. But if you tell it, "I can learn," "I can improve," "I can succeed," then your mind will start looking for ways to support those beliefs instead. That is why two people living in the same world can experience completely different realities.
One sees opportunity, another sees obstacles. One sees potential, another sees only problems. One sees the future, another sees only the present. Over time, this difference determines the direction of their lives. Notice something about people who achieve extraordinary success. They rarely use the word impossible. That doesn't mean they think everything is easy. It means they believe there is always a solution. When others see a wall, they look for a door. When others see failure, they search for the lesson. This mindset takes them to places that most people never even imagine reaching. Many people believe confidence is something you're born with, but in reality, confidence grows from belief, and belief is built through repeated thoughts. The story you tell yourself every single day gradually becomes the person you become.
Becomes your reality. If you repeatedly tell yourself that you're ordinary, you'll continue doing ordinary things. But if you tell yourself that you're capable of improving every single day, your actions will gradually begin moving in that direction. When a sculptor looks at a massive block of stone, he doesn't simply see a rock. He sees the sculpture hidden inside it. Then, little by little, he removes everything that doesn't belong. Eventually, a masterpiece emerges. Human life works the same way. Every person carries limitless potential within them, yet most people never recognize it. They only see the stone on the outside. The moment you begin to see your own potential, change begins. Because real change never starts from the outside. It starts from within. No teacher, no book, and no course can transform your life unless you decide to change. And once that decision is made, even small improvements begin producing extraordinary results. Now, the question is, how do you begin this transformation? The first step is to examine your current beliefs. What do you believe about money? What do you believe about success? Do you think extraordinary success is only for the lucky few? Or do you believe success is a skill that can be learned? Your answer will shape your future. The second step is to change your language. Instead of saying, "I can't," start saying, "I can't do it yet." This small change teaches your mind to see failure not as the end, but as part of the learning process. The third step is to change your identity. Don't simply try to become rich. Become the kind of person who increases their value every single day. Don't just dream about success. Become someone whose habits naturally attract success. The fourth step is to develop the habit of thinking bigger. The world's greatest achievements were never born from small thinking. The bigger the goal you can imagine, the bigger the solutions your mind begins to search for. Remember, change never happens overnight. When you plant a seed in the ground, it doesn't become a tree immediately. First, it develops roots. From the outside, nothing seems to happen, but beneath the surface, something incredibly important is taking place. The same is true for changing your mindset. At first, the results aren't visible, but inside, the foundation for a new reality is quietly being built. One day, you'll notice your decisions have changed. Then your habits will change. After that, your results will change. And eventually, your entire life will change. Most people want to enjoy the fruits of success. Very few are willing to plant the seeds. Yet every giant tree was once a tiny seed. Every billion-dollar business was once just an idea. Every extraordinary life began with a new way of thinking. That is why the journey to wealth doesn't begin with a bank account. It begins in the mind. The day a person truly believes that their current situation is not their final destination, that is the day their future begins to change. And perhaps that day has already begun for you. Because the first step towards wealth, success, and extraordinary achievement isn't an investment. It isn't a business. It isn't luck. The first step is a new thought. And that thought is, I am not destined to remain where I am today. The real question is, how are you using the money that comes into your hand? If you eat a seed, it satisfies your hunger for a day. But if you plant that seed in the ground, it can grow into a tree that provides for years. Money works the same way. You can spend every dollar on immediate pleasure or use it to build future wealth. The problem is that the human mind naturally prefers instant gratification. Buying something new, showing others that you're successful, enjoying temporary pleasure, all of these are easy. Waiting and investing for the future is much harder. That's why most people magnify the present and underestimate the future. But people who build wealth do the exact opposite. They give greater importance to the future. They understand that one small decision today can create an enormous difference 10 years from now. Another common mistake is confusing liabilities with assets. A large house, an expensive car, or anything that takes money out of your pocket every single month, no matter how attractive it looks, it isn't necessarily an asset. A true asset is something that puts money into your pocket. Understanding this distinction is essential because many people appear wealthy on the outside, while in reality they are trapped by debt and endless expenses. Meanwhile, others live simple lives while quietly building assets that eventually provide financial freedom. The best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time is today. Money management works the same way. It doesn't matter what you've done in the past. What matters is what you begin doing today. No matter how much you currently earn, you can start seeing money differently from this moment forward. Before spending a single dollar, ask yourself, will this give me temporary pleasure or will it make me stronger in the long run? Whenever you're about to buy something, ask another question. Will this enrich my future or will it simply make my present more comfortable? Little by little, these questions will reshape your thinking. And when your thinking changes, your decisions change. When your decisions change, your results change. Many people believe they need a lot of money before they can build wealth. But the lives of countless successful people throughout history prove otherwise. You don't need a lot of money to create wealth. You need the right perspective. Money can disappear. Businesses can fail. Markets can collapse. But if someone possesses the right financial mindset, they can build wealth again. That is true wealth. More valuable than the numbers in your bank account is a mind that knows how to create value, how to recognize opportunities, and how to make money work for you. The moment you stop seeing money as merely something to spend and begin seeing it as a tool for building wealth, a new chapter in your financial journey begins. Because to wealthy people, money is not the destination. Money is a seed. And inside every seed lies the potential for an entire forest. Chapter 3. The Power of a Strong Vision. In 1953, Edmund Hillary and Tenzing Norgay became the first people to reach the summit of Mount Everest. But very few people know that years before this historic achievement, Edmund Hillary had already pictured himself standing on Everest in his mind. After one failed expedition, he stood before a photograph of Mount Everest and said, "You cannot grow any bigger, but I can." Those words weren't just spoken to a mountain. They expressed one of life's deepest truths. The world's greatest achievements rarely begin with money, talent, or perfect circumstances. They begin with a clear vision. A vivid picture of a future that doesn't yet exist, but is so real in a person's mind that it compels them to move forward every single day. Researchers at Harvard University have observed for many years that people with long-term goals and a clear sense of direction tend to be more self-disciplined, more persistent, and ultimately more successful. Because a goal is more than a destination, it is a force that shapes the decisions you make every day. Imagine you're sailing across a vast ocean. You have enough fuel, a skilled crew, a powerful ship. But what happens if you have no destination? You may keep moving, yet never truly arrive anywhere. Life works exactly the same way. Many people work incredibly hard, but they don't know where they actually want to go. They're busy, but they're not making progress. They work every day, only to realize at the end of the year that they're still in the same place. Because hard work alone is never enough. Hard work must have direction. When an architect designs a massive building, the blueprint comes before the first brick is laid. Without a blueprint, the final structure would become a mess. Ironically, many people forget this principle when it comes to their own lives. They never create a clear blueprint for their future. They simply hope everything will somehow work out. But an extraordinary life is never built by accident. It must be built intentionally. One of the greatest advantages of having a powerful vision is that it helps you survive difficult times. When everything is easy, almost everyone feels motivated. But when failure comes,
When criticism appears, or when things don't go according to plan, most people give up. A clear vision keeps you moving, because instead of seeing only today's pain, you also see the future you're fighting for. Throughout history, the greatest entrepreneurs, scientists, athletes, and leaders have all shared one thing in common. They were able to see a future that no one else could see. While others accepted present reality as the final truth, they believed the future was possible, and that belief gave them the strength to work harder than most people ever could. Many people set goals, but very few become truly committed to them, and that difference is everything. A wish says, I want to be successful. A commitment says, no matter what obstacles I face, I will continue moving forward. A wish depends on circumstances.
A wish depends on circumstances. A commitment depends on a decision. That is why most New Year's resolutions disappear within just a few weeks. People set goals, but they never connect those goals to their identity. When a goal remains only a thought, it's easy to abandon. But when it becomes part of who you are, it becomes powerful. If someone says, I want to write a book, that's a wish. But if they say, I am a writer, their behavior begins to change. In the same way, saying, I want to become wealthy is simply a goal. But when someone starts seeing themselves as a person who creates value every day and builds wealth over the long term, their decisions begin to change. A powerful vision teaches you to see beyond your current limitations. Imagine a tiny seed buried beneath the soil. From the outside, it appears insignificant, but inside that seed lies the potential for a mighty tree. The problem is that most people see themselves only as the seed. They never recognize the greatness hidden within them. They see their current income, they see their current skills, they see their present limitations, but they fail to see their future potential. A vision makes that potential visible, because people naturally try to act in ways that are consistent with their identity. If you believe you're capable of achieving great things, your decisions gradually begin to align with that belief. If you believe your life will always remain ordinary, your choices will keep you within those limits. That is why vision isn't only about seeing the future, it has the power to transform the present. The books you read today, the skills you learn, the relationships you build, and the money you save are all influenced by the picture you hold of your future. If your vision is small, your effort will be small. If your vision is great, your effort will become great as well. To build a powerful vision, begin by asking yourself a few important questions. What kind of life do I want 5 years from now? Who do I want to become in 10 years? What do I want my career, relationships, health, and finances to look like? Most people never answer these questions. As a result, life simply carries them wherever it goes. But those who answer them intentionally begin designing their own future. The truth is, the life you dream of may seem far beyond your reach today, but today's limitations do not determine tomorrow's reality. Every great achievement once seemed impossible. Every giant company was once a small idea. Every successful person was once a beginner. So never mistake your current circumstances for your final identity, because the future always favors those who can see it before anyone else. A person who can clearly picture their future can endure today's hardships. They continue moving forward even after failure. They never mistake temporary obstacles for permanent defeat, because their eyes remain fixed on the destination. And that is precisely why extraordinary wealth, extraordinary success, and extraordinary lives always begin with a clear vision. Every great reality in the world once existed only in someone's imagination, and your future can begin in exactly the same place, today. A football player doesn't begin training on the day of the match. A surgeon doesn't start studying on the day of an operation. A pilot doesn't learn to fly moments before taking off. Preparation always comes before opportunity. That is why the world's greatest success stories may appear sudden from the outside, but behind them are years of invisible preparation. While many people are asleep, someone is learning a new skill. While others waste time, someone is gaining experience. While others complain, someone is quietly building the foundation for their future. These small, unseen actions are what eventually create the ability to seize great opportunities. History is filled with people who seemed to become successful overnight. But if you look deeper, you'll often find 10 years of preparation behind that overnight success. The world sees the result. Very few people see the long journey that came before it. That's why many people mistake success for luck. They see the day of success, but they never see the years of preparation. Imagine two people receiving the exact same opportunity. One has spent years learning new skills, reading books, gaining experience, and improving themselves. The other has simply waited for an opportunity to appear. Who is more likely to succeed? Obviously, the first person. Why? Because opportunity doesn't make people successful. It simply reveals those who are already prepared. An opportunity is like a mirror. It shows how prepared you truly are. That is why the best way to think about the future is to prepare yourself for it. Many people worry about the future. They ask, what will happen to the economy? What will happen to the market? Where is technology heading? How much stronger will the competition become? But there is an even more important question. Am I preparing myself for tomorrow? The world will always change. Technology will change, industries will change, markets will change. But if you continue learning, you'll always be able to adapt. That is why knowledge and skills are assets no one can take away from you. Your bank balance may decrease, your business may suffer losses, but what you've learned, the skills you've developed, and the experience you've gained will always stay with you. That's why people who lose their wealth often build it again, because they still possess the knowledge that created it in the first place. True wealth isn't just money. True wealth is your skills, your mindset, and your ability to keep learning. Here's something interesting. Opportunities rarely appear wearing a label that says opportunity. Many times they arrive disguised as hard work. Sometimes they appear as additional responsibility. Other times they come as difficult challenges that seem frightening at first. That is why people who constantly search for the easiest path often miss life's greatest opportunities. Those who are willing to learn, however, can recognize possibility even inside challenges. When a sculptor carves a stone, each strike of the hammer seems insignificant, but after hundreds of blows, a masterpiece emerges. Life works the same way. Reading one book, learning one new skill, practicing for one extra hour, understanding one new idea, none of these seem particularly important in the moment, but over the years, they create a powerful foundation that remains invisible to everyone else. Then one day, an opportunity arrives. People say, "How lucky." But it wasn't luck. It was the meeting of preparation and opportunity. Today, you may have no idea what opportunity will come into your life 5 years from now. You may not know which skill will become the most valuable. You may not know which relationship or connection will change your future. But one thing is certain. The more prepared you become today, the more opportunities you'll recognize tomorrow. Because the real problem is rarely a lack of opportunities. The real problem is that most people fail to recognize them. And they fail to recognize them because they aren't prepared. When a person begins improving themselves, the world doesn't suddenly change, but their eyes do. They begin seeing opportunities they never noticed before. They discover possibilities they couldn't even imagine. And that's where a new reality begins. That is why tomorrow's success is built upon today's preparation. The future does not belong to those who only dream. It belongs to those who dream and then make themselves worthy of those dreams every single day. Because when opportunity knocks on your door, there is no time left to prepare. There is only time to open the door. And those who are already prepared are the ones who step through it into a new life. Chapter 5. The greatest risk is avoiding risk. In 1997, a team of researchers at Harvard Business School conducted a long-term study of entrepreneurs. They wanted to understand why some people achieved extraordinary success while others remained stuck in the same place. One of their most surprising findings was this: successful entrepreneurs did not take more risks than ordinary people. Instead, they looked at risk differently. They didn't jump blindly into uncertainty, but they also didn't allow fear to stop them. They gathered information, they analyzed the possibilities, and then they made informed decisions. This may surprise many people because we often assume that successful people simply aren't afraid. The truth is, they do feel fear. They just don't allow fear to make their decisions. Whenever someone considers starting something new, two voices usually begin speaking inside their mind. The first voice asks, "What if I fail?" The second asks, "What if I succeed?" Most people listen only to the first voice, so they remain in their comfort zone. But here's something interesting. People usually fear the risks they can see while ignoring the risks they cannot. Imagine someone wants to learn a new skill. They think, "What if I waste my time?" So they never begin learning. But they fail to ask another question. What if I learn nothing? Where will I be 5 years from now? Someone wants to start a business. They think, "What if I lose money?" So they never start. But they never ask, "What will happen to my potential if I never even try?" That is why in many cases, the greatest risk isn't taking action. The greatest risk is doing nothing at all. Think about a river. Flowing water stays fresh and clean. Still water gradually becomes stagnant. Human life is much the same. People who keep learning, gaining new experiences, and challenging themselves continue moving forward. Those who always seek safety eventually become stuck.
Behind every great success story in history, there was always some form of risk. Someone started a new business.
Successful people do not run away from risk. They seek to understand it. An experienced mountaineer doesn't climb a mountain without preparation. Before the climb, they study the weather, inspect their equipment, and carefully plan their route. They don't deny the risks. They understand them and prepare for them. The same principle applies to life. Taking risks does not mean being reckless. It means having the courage to move forward despite uncertainty. Because by the time everything is completely certain, the opportunity is usually no longer a great one. Many people spend their lives waiting for the perfect moment. They tell themselves, "I'll start once I've saved more money," or "I'll try when I have more experience." But the truth is, the perfect time rarely comes. Those who spend their lives waiting often discover that opportunity has quietly passed them by. Meanwhile, those who prepare themselves and take action make mistakes, learn from them, improve, and eventually move ahead. Think about a child learning to walk. If they refused to stand up because they were afraid of falling, would they ever learn to walk? Of course not. Falling is part of learning. In the same way, failure is part of the journey to success. Many successful people appear as though they've always been confident. But if you look closely, you'll find they made countless mistakes. The difference is simple. They never allowed their mistakes to become their identity. They didn't see failure as proof that they were incapable. They treated it as information. They learned what didn't work and then tried again. When a scientist conducts an experiment, success rarely comes on the first attempt. But they don't consider failed experiments a waste of time, because every failure brings them one step closer to the right answer. The same is true in life. If you've never failed, perhaps you've never chosen a goal that's truly big enough. Because big goals always involve uncertainty. Big dreams always involve risk. Great success always demands courage. 10 years from now, many of the decisions you'll regret most won't be the mistakes you made. They'll be the things you never even tried. The book you wanted to write, but never wrote. The business you dreamed of starting, but never started. The skill you wanted to learn, but never learned. The opportunity you wanted to pursue, but walked away from because of fear. People usually suffer from their mistakes for a short time, but they often regret unrealized potential for years. That's why one of life's most important principles is this: listen to fear, but don't follow its instructions. Fear can serve as a warning, but it should never become the architect of your future. Whenever you're faced with a major decision, ask yourself one question. If I don't take this risk, where will I be 5 years from now? Very often, the answer to that question will guide you toward the right decision. Because life's greatest rewards usually exist outside your comfort zone, and only those who dare to step beyond it discover new possibilities. So don't see risk as your enemy. See it as the price of growth. Because behind every great achievement lies a moment when someone chose to value their potential more than their fear, and that moment became the beginning of a new life. Chapter 6. Time. The one asset you can never get back. On an autumn evening in 1923, 8 of the wealthiest and most influential businessmen in the world gathered at a luxurious hotel in the United States. Together, their combined wealth exceeded the national budgets of many countries at the time. Newspapers described them as the undisputed champions of the financial world. They could buy almost anything they wanted. Any industry they entered, they had the power to influence. But the next 25 years told a very different story. Some of them went bankrupt. Some ended up in prison. Some suffered complete mental collapse. Others took their own lives. By the end of their lives, many had reached circumstances that no one could have imagined. The most astonishing part of this story isn't that they lost their fortunes. The most astonishing part is this: much of the money they lost could have been earned back. But there was one thing they could never recover: time. Every single day, every person receives an invisible bank account. Into that account, exactly 86,400 seconds are deposited. The rich and the poor, the famous and the unknown, everyone receives exactly the same amount. But at the end of the day, a remarkable difference appears. Some people invest their time. Some simply spend it. Others waste it. Although these three actions may look similar, their results are completely different. If you lose money, you can earn more. If you lose a business, you can build another. If you lose wealth, you can create it again. But the hour you lose today can never be bought back tomorrow at any price. That is why the world's most successful people value time even more than money. Many people believe their greatest problem is a lack of money. But in many cases, the real problem isn't money, it's how they use their time. Imagine someone spends just 1 hour every day learning a new skill. On the first day, that single hour doesn't seem very valuable. After 1 week, there may still be no noticeable change. Even after 1 month, the results may seem insignificant. But after 5 years, that person has invested more than 1,800 hours in self-improvement. That's enough time to master a valuable skill, learning a language, build a business, or even begin an entirely new career. Meanwhile, another person spends that same hour every day without purpose. 5 years later, the gap between the two is so enormous that it seems as if they live in completely different worlds. Yet the difference began with just 1 hour a day. Successful people don't think of time only in years. They value the smallest moments, because they understand that life isn't built 1 year at a time. Life is built 1 day at a time, and every day is built 1 hour at a time. Just as an architect builds a great building 1 brick at a time, a person builds their future by using each small moment wisely. Interestingly, people often think carefully before spending money. They'll spend hours deciding whether to buy a phone, a new outfit, or take a vacation, but they rarely show the same care when spending time.
2 hours disappear scrolling through social media. 3 more disappear watching random videos. An entire evening passes with no plan at all. The reason is simple. The value of time isn't immediately visible. Its true value is revealed years later. Everyone hears the sound of a tree being cut down, but no one hears the silent growth of a seed becoming a tree. Time works in exactly the same way. Its effects accumulate quietly. The small decisions you make every day may seem insignificant first, but by the end of the year, they become the reason for extraordinary differences.
When someone says, "Not today, I'll start tomorrow," they don't just lose a single day. They lose everything that day could have become. Because great achievements are never built in a single day. They are built from the accumulation of thousands of small days. That is why the most valuable investment you can ever make is investing your time in the right things. The books you read, the skills you learn, the people you spend time with, and the habits you build are all shaping your future. The question is, are you intentionally creating that future? Or are you simply drifting wherever time carries you? Many people search for the secret to success. Some look for special strategies, others search for hidden formulas. But very often, the answer is much simpler. Successful people value their time more than most others do. They understand that every single day is a piece of their life, and once that piece is gone, it can never be recovered. One day you may forget the balance in your bank account. You may forget your old car. You may even forget the salary from your first job, but you will never be able to go back and relive a single day of your life. That is why time isn't just another asset. It is the foundation upon which your wealth, your success, your relationships, and your entire life are built. In the end, what makes someone wealthy or poor isn't simply how much money they have. It's what they choose to do with the time they've been given. Because the most valuable currency in the world is the time of your life. Perhaps you've missed opportunities in the past. Perhaps you've made mistakes. Perhaps there were dreams you never even began to pursue. But the future is never imprisoned by the past. The future is created by the decisions you make today. Every chapter of this book points to one fundamental truth. Life changes from the inside out, not from the outside in. First, your thinking changes. Then your perspective changes. Then your decisions change. Then your habits change. And eventually, your entire life changes. The person who learns to think bigger begins to recognize bigger opportunities. The person who sees money not merely as something to spend, but as a tool for creating wealth, begins building a better future. The person who can clearly see their dreams finds the strength to keep moving forward even through obstacles. The person who prepares themselves eventually finds that opportunities begin to find them. The person who takes action despite fear opens the door to new possibilities. And the person who understands the value of time gradually builds a life that once existed only in their imagination. At the end of the day, wealth is not simply the number in your bank account. Success is not merely the amount of money you earn. True success is becoming the person who fully realizes their potential. Perhaps you won't become a billionaire tomorrow. Perhaps your life won't completely change within a single year. But if every day you think a little better, learn a little more, make slightly braver decisions, and value your time just a little more, then a few years from now, your life may reach a place you can't even imagine today. Because great transformations never happen overnight. They happen through the consistent repetition of small decisions, and those decisions begin with one simple belief. Your current circumstances are not your final destination. Within you lives a person greater than the one you are today. Within you is the ability to dream bigger. Within you is the power to build a future that has not yet been written. So before closing this book, remember one thing. Billionaires are not born into a different world. They simply learn to think differently. And the day a person breaks through the limits of their thinking is the day the limits of their life begin to break as well. Today, this book may have come to an end, but your story has not. Perhaps the most important chapter of your life is still waiting to be written. Now, the pen is in your hands. Thank you for listening to this audiobook on Audiobook. We'd love to hear your thoughts. Let us know in the comments what you thought of this book. If you found it valuable, please share it with others and give the video a like. And don't forget to subscribe to Audiobook so you never miss another inspiring audiobook released every week. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you in the next one.